I know it's hard, I know it's complicated, but I promised you I've been waiting here forever. I had a much to say, but you're not here with me. No, we're invincible, like fire in the snow. Trust me when I say you are my beautiful world, and I'm feeling it all. We should make an effort. It's true you're so far away, and it's true you don't feel the same. But if you take my hand, we can try and go back. Start it from scratch. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not. Because I still believe. You're my gravity. You will never be what I expected. Different frequencies, that's why we ain't connected. You know I will make it through. I got nothing to lose but you. It's true you're so far away, and it's true I can feel the same. It's another day, you know you want me to stay, but I go my way. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not. Because I still believe. You're my gravity. You're my gravity. You're calling on my name, but the echo numbs your pain. Sorry, but more than just a shadow, I'm more than just a man. You don't care how I feel, you don't know how I feel. No, you don't know how. I wash away the sorrow till my heart can beat again. You're my gravity. No, you're my gravity. I will let you go. The only thing that I know, you were my gravity, but now I have to leave. I will let you go. What do you think that I want? What do you think that I want? I know how to breathe into my gravity. 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 I know it's hard, I know it's complicated, but I promised you I've been waiting here forever. I had a much to say, but you're not here with me. No, we're invincible, like fire in the snow. Trust me when I say you are my beautiful world, and I'm feeling it all. We should make an effort. It's true you're so far away, and it's true you don't feel the same. But if you take my hand, we can try and go back. Start it from scratch. I won't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause you're my gravity, and I will never leave. I won't let you go. No, baby, I will not.
Warning. The Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Talking about my generation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to Bristol Motor Speedway, Bristol Dirt tonight, ready to play host to the 25th race of the 8th season of the NNSCRA Duracell Next Gen Cup Series. It's just the Cup drivers here this week getting ready to set the table, if you will, pretty much set the stage for next week when they'll be joined by the Lights drivers in our doubleheader regular season finale to put together the respective playoffs on the Lights and the Cup side. Here tonight, one of two last opportunities for a driver to be able to get themselves into the conversation for a playoff position, whether it be through consistency to point their way up into the top 10 in the overall standings, or through a checkered flag to put themselves into the conversation for one of the 6 limited wildcard spots. The wildcard spots, they are being contested and contested heavily coming into this race, and that battle may get even more, the waters may get a little bit more murky as to who's going to be in one of those playoff positions via wildcard spot at the conclusion of this one, depending on a lot of things. We've got a couple of drivers, multi-time winners, that are close to moving their way into the top 10, which would then open the door for some of the one-time winners to be able to have a wildcard spot. On the flip side, we've got a couple of multi-time winners that mathematically could fall out of the top 10 at the conclusion of this race, and that would take away some of the wildcard spots from some one-time winners that are hovering between 11th through 30th in the standings. We also have a multi-time winner coming into tonight's race that is 30th in points, and if he falls out of the top 30, his victories wouldn't count towards a wild card spot. That would again open up the door for some of those one-time winners. A lot of moving parts and pieces going to be taking place here in this one. The question is, what direction does the pendulum swing in determining who is in and who is out? One driver coming into this race that is just barely in would be Daniel Voiles. He gained 5 spots in the standings after Hanford last week, moved up to 22nd in points. Why is that important? Well, he was able to bypass RJ Bishop, who last week going into Hanford was in the final wild card spot. Voiles, as consequence, now it's in the final wild card position in a playoff spot currently, and he qualified on the pole for this afternoon's event. This is going to be a track where track position will be very important, so good qualifying effort out of the World NOS Racing entry, and he's looking to translate that into a second win on the season, joining Destin Bolin, Carson Gum, James Qualls, and most recently Matt Haas as a multi-time winner here in Season 8. Alongside of him, a driver that's just out there to have some fun, try and pick up another checkered flag in a very storied career, and that is Trey Wright, the all-star car out of Blue Oval Automotive. And keep an eye on Trey Wright. He could be an X factor in this one here, because Trey Wright does have a dirt track victory in the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the track was Lakewood Raceway. So he's very familiar when it comes to the dirt surface, and we'll see if he's able to get that all-star car into victory lane. Now, Trey Wright's only making his second start on the season, as that car has been fluctuated between himself, Jordan Lopez, Jose Mills, Chris Dollerton, a lot of your drivers that have formerly driven for Blue Oval Automotive. So if he wins, that'll be another notch into his already storied resume. It would not make any impact in terms of eliminating somebody out of the playoffs. What it would do is it would, in a sense, basically open the door up still for drivers to try and get themselves into one of those last minute, maybe fifth or sixth wildcard positions. Zachary Fitzwater shows that Blue Oval Automotive brought some fast machines here this week, as he will start kitty corner to his teammate. Fitzwater going to roll off third. He comes into this race 21st in points. There's going to be a list of drivers I'll be naming off later on that can fall into the category of getting into a wild card spot if they win here tonight. Fitzwater is one of those drivers, 21st in points coming into this one. And James Qualls looking to be the third three-time winner on the season. Carson Gum, Matt Haas with 3 wins, Qualls with 2. More importantly for James Qualls, he's only 23 points out of the points lead, and Ryan Brommer did not qualify well here this weekend. So big opportunity for Qualls to get into that regular season championship conversation for next week's season finale, or regular season finale, I should say, looking to make up those 23 points maybe here tonight. Mathematically, Qualls could leave Bristol Dirt as the points leader. Well, we'll be talking about these playoffs here in just a moment, but let's go down trackside and get those most famous words in motorsports. 150 laps ready to be run here at Bristol Dirt.
Drivers, start your engines.
You'll see on the right side of your screen your 42-car starting lineup. Ryan Brommer comes in the points leader. James Qualls, we documented in second. Levi McIntyre in the third position. He's 30 points out. Carson Gum, Alexander Rowe, that's the top 5 in points. The next drivers that currently would be in the top 10 and would be in a playoff spot would be Summer Henson, Nick Gunther, Jack Mitchell, Destin Bolin, and Quentin Moore. Matt Haas, with these 3 victories on the season, including last week at Hanford, is 11th in points, so he'd be in the first wildcard spot. Connor Breton, 30th in the standings, just barely in. With his 2 wins, would have the second wildcard spot. Then Eric Sadler, Michael Norman, Reggie Fogelman, and as we documented, pole sitter Daniel Voiles would have the final 4 wildcard positions. Lock and change between now and the checkered flag. Green flag waves. We're underway at Bristol Dirt. Voiles and Wright going to battle side by side for the top position, and Wright will rip the top, and he will clear for the lead going into 3. We have yet this season to have one of the non-charter entries that qualify into the field week after week. We've yet to have them go to victory lane. Trey Wright looking to change that. James Qualls looking to get around the outside of Daniel Voiles for the second spot, as they're currently gridlocked from second place on back. Connor Breton on the top side there behind Qualls, trying to get 4th from Zachary Fitzwater. Big race here for Connor Breton. 30th in the standings. If he has a bad run here, he's going to find himself out of the top 30 in points. His 2 victories formerly this season would not count towards a wild card position. Breton was a 3-time winner last year and made it into the playoffs, so he needs a good run today to build up a cushion between himself and that 30th in standings cut line in preparation for next week's regular season finale. 3 wide, further back behind them. That is Summer Henson looking low on Levi McIntyre. Nathan Ormond up on the top side. Summer 6th in points. I mentioned, I believe, last week at Hanford that when we got to the start of this race, the conclusion of this race going into Auto Club, we would start to get a more general idea of drivers who have locked themselves into the postseason. We already have a list of drivers that regardless of what happens here in these next 2 weeks, we know they will be battling for the championship. James Qualls, Carson Gum, Destin Bolin, Matt Haas, by virtue of their multiple wins, they are all locked in. The gap that you have to have back to 10th in the standings to be locked in coming into this race this week is 90 points, because you can gain 45 points with a race victory each week. And right now, the only driver that currently has that cushion would be Ryan Brummer. So Ryan Brummer has locked himself into the playoffs through points. So we know at least 5 drivers that will be competing for the championship in a few weeks' time, starting at Gateway. Jury still out on Connor Breton, as we documented, and then there's a number of drivers that if they have good runs here this afternoon, they will more than likely then find themselves locked in. They'll have to only be 45 points ahead of the 10th in the standings cut line. Looking at drivers like Levi McIntyre, Carson Gum, Alexander Rowe, right now they are about 40 to 45 points ahead of that cut line coming into this race. If they maintain or if they increase the cushion, then they would lock themselves into the postseason as well. James Qualls got to the outside of Trey Wright, and he has gone to the front, now clears for the position. Connor Breton following in his tire tracks, and Summer Henson went from all the way on the bottom 3 wide, now up to the outside line. Here comes Nick Gunther looking for the top spot. He peaked 3 wide on Wright and Qualls, tucks back in line. Nick Gunther, one of 2 drivers that are former winners here at this racetrack that are in the field here this evening, the other one being Carson Gum. Gunther coming into this race 7th in points, had that top 5 run last week at Hanford that moved him up 3 spots from 10th to 7th, and looking for another good run here. Gunther has been in the playoffs before, but he's won his way into the playoffs. This would be the first season, if he's not able to win here tonight, that we could be looking at Nick Gunther potentially pointing his way into the postseason. Gap from 7th on back to 8th, where we find last week's winner, Matt Haas, battling with Nathan Ormond. Ormond now going to move on by for that spot. Nathan Ormond coming into this race 25th in points. Right now would be the first driver out of a wild card position, as he is 4 positions in the standings behind Daniel Voiles and RJ Bishop, who went into last week's race at Hanford in the final wild card spot, did not have a good run. Free fell through the points, was bypassed by both Voiles and Ormond. He is the 2nd driver out of a wild card spot right now, and he started this race shotgun on the field as well. And looking at scoring right now, he has not made much progress, as he's currently in the 41st position. Battle for the lead is on. Connor Breton looking low on James Qualls. Summer Henson right there as well. Going to take the opportunity to get to the outside of Connor Breton, who left that door open. Qualls will clear back for the lead. Henson and Breton will now battle for 2nd place. We've been keeping tabs last couple of weeks on the Rookie of the Year battle. It's been really close between Eric Monaco and Summer Henson. Last week, Summer Henson took the points lead from Monaco, has 1 point over Eric coming into this race. Eric Sadler, Daniel Bouchard currently in a tie for 3rd, but they are both a total of 13 points out of the rookie points lead. So it's looking like it might be a 2-horse race for Rookie of the Year honors here in Season 8 between Monaco and Henson. Monaco, the defending Light Series champion. Summer Henson, one of 2 rookies that have gone to victory lane this season, picking up that win 3 weeks ago at Homestead. Top 5 single file. Let's go back here to this 3-wide battling. A few drivers in that 3-wide formation that are more than likely going to be in the playoffs this season. Levi McIntyre in the 99, still chasing that first victory of the season. Jack Mitchell, a former winner at Phoenix, and Matt Haas, 3-time winner on the season, including the Daytona 500. Charles Sanford in the 03, working his way forward Sanford had a great run at Watkins Glen. Gained, I believe it was about 6 spots in the standings. Gave most of those spots back after a poor performance last week at Hanford. Now finds himself 18th in points. Needs a good run here tonight if he's going to have a shot of maybe winning or pointing his way into the playoffs next week. We've documented about the fact that this has not been the season if you're an S3 Motorsports driver. The organization for the last 3 seasons has claimed the championship, but right now Charles Sanford appears to really be the only driver that statistically has a chance of getting into the postseason and trying to extend S3 Motorsports' stranglehold on the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series championship to 4 straight seasons. A little further back behind this group, 12th place on back, Anthony McCrory, as we're almost 4 wide back in this area there. Matt Haas is falling back. He has gotten kicked to the high side, been put into the middle. He's now about to drift outside of the top 20 as Eric Monaco gets around the outside of him. Here comes Kyle Matthews to the inside. And look at the dust that's been kicked up here all around this racetrack. Something we talked about yesterday in pole day qualifying was going to be visibility. If you are mid-pack to rear of the field with these dust clouds being kicked up, makes it very difficult to be able to see and gauge the distance between you to the car in front. As Summer Henson starts dropping back here as well. And people are probably wondering, well, why are we seeing cars dropping back? And why do we eventually see cars moving forward? It all comes down really to tire temperature. Dirt track racing is really, really strange in terms of its difference to racing on concrete or asphalt. When we talk about racing on concrete or asphalt, we always talk about tire heat and the tire heat buildup more often than not, specifically in the right front tire and longer into a run, the right rear tire for corner exit. In dirt track racing, you want the tires to be hot. Hot tires mean grip. As the race goes on, the tires will actually cool down. What does that do? That means that the cars are more slidey, they are more snappy loose. And that takes away the handling of a race car in terms of dirt track racing. So it's the complete polar opposite of what we're used to on a weekly basis in terms of talking about tire heat. You want that heat in the tires at a dirt track. You do not want those tires cooling down as the run goes on. So as we started to see Matt Haas, Summer Henson slipping through the field, one would have to assume that the loose condition is getting worse as the tires are cooling, with the handling going away. More and more drivers are being able to take advantage. One thing about Bristol Motor Speedway, it doesn't matter whether it's paved or covered in dirt. You are the leader. You are going to eventually start encountering traffic at the tail end of the field. That's what's happening here. Benjamin Snyder in the 38, going to be first on the hit list, and Qualls and Breton are going to catch him at the wrong point right there. They're going to split him 3 wide. Nick Gunther in that conversation as well. 3-car fight for the race lead, having to deal with traffic. Laura Chung in the 77 going to be next up ahead. Then it looks like it's a bit of clean racetrack before they'd get to some more drivers, including Matt McIntyre and Kyler Sustre. As Breton dives low on Qualls for the top position, looks to use the 77 as a pick. Qualls will pull up to the outside 3 wide once again. And Breton, I think, might be clear up. Nope, Qualls going to battle up to the right rear quarter panel once again. Good battling here at the front. Multi-groove racing here at Bristol Dirt. A lot of options. Meanwhile, behind them, 4th place trying to change hands. Charles Sanford looking low on Trey Wright. Trey Wright getting held up there by his Blue Oval Automotive teammate Benjamin Snyder, who will give him a lane to the outside, and they'll split him 3 wide. Behind them, Anthony McCrory right now in the 6th position, trying to catch up to these top 5. Let's go back up to the front here. Connor Breton now in control of the lead. Qualls and Gunther side by side for 2nd, as the 84 of Cody Lamas you saw there on the bottom right of your screen. The Carvana Chevrolet hits pit road. Question is this regularly scheduled or not? We don't have exactly an idea of the fuel window for these drivers. Not sure if they can make it the 100 laps or not on what they've got in the tank. Remember, we are in CTS physics now here for the Cup Series drivers. No longer PTA. Cole Deaver coming off of pit road as well. So I would have to assume with a couple of drivers on pit lane that we would be looking at regularly scheduled stops. Which means that if indeed that's about the furthest we can go, Quentin Moore with a pit stop as well, we're looking at least a 3-stop race here. I just don't see how 3 drivers right there would be all coming to pit road if these weren't regularly scheduled. If it's just one driver all by their lonesome, then yeah, I would assume something is amiss and they're making that pit stop for something other than 4 tires and fuel. But I think we may see more and more drivers eventually on pit lane. There's Summer Henson on pit road. We mentioned that Summer was dropping back, so they must feel they need an adjustment on that race car. Another car right there on the back half of pit road. I couldn't make out who that was. Might have potentially been Matt McIntyre. There's Matt Haas on pit lane. Keith Batson as well. Gunther put the pressure on Connor Breton for the top position, couldn't make the move. When do we start to see some of our race leaders make the dive? Yep, it was Matt McIntyre that I saw there pitting on the back straightaway in the 21. I mean, much like at a speedway where we talk about the undercut with fresh tires to be able to try and make up track position, as there's Kyler Sestre pitting. The same deal here at a dirt track, because as we mentioned, you come down pit road, you take on 4 fresh tires. Guess what your tires are? They're warm or they're hot. That gives you the grip on your outlap. So there is a benefit for the undercut, as I saw Dylan Young on pit road, Reggie Fogelman, a former winner on the season, currently in a wild card spot. Let's drop back here and see about those fresh tires, because Summer Henson has them, and she's trying to make her way by this 3-way battle for third. Jessica Shelton, the defending champion, diving onto pit road there. This pit strategy for everybody, very spread out. We're not seeing a mass migration to pit road of multiple cars every lap, so that's going to make things interesting for the fuel window. There's Michael Norman, our winner from a couple of weeks ago at Watkins Glen on pit road, 14th in points, currently in a wild card spot. 4-time winner Destin Bolin on pit lane there in the Maxwell House Ford Mustang. And you see Henson be able to work her way by most of these drivers pretty quickly. Matt Haas on fresh tires as well, also going to work. Look at the run he was able to get there on Summer Henson alone. That's the difference of the warmer tires to the cooler tires. So get by Nick Gunther. Now looks to get by race leader Connor Breton. Summer Henson will look to do the same. Both of these drivers right now are 2 laps down and just got themselves to 1 lap down. Autumn Brooks in the 62 down there, heading for pit lane. When do we see Breton come to pit road? Nick Gunther, Charles Sanford, James Qualls, Trey Wright. Some other names that onto pit road that we hadn't documented yet. Looks like Benjamin Miles just made a pit stop, as did Eric Sadler. Qualls and Wright from inside the top 5. I just saw them on pit lane. So we are having some of our front runners make the dive to pit road here. And I'm not saying anything. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because we saw last week during a cycle green flag pit stops an untimely yellow. I really want to see this thing cycle around. I don't want to see drivers get trapped a lap down here, because you're going to lose at least 2 laps with pitting. I just saw Kyle Matthews on pit road. There was another car behind him that looked like Quentin Moore again. Yeah, actually it was. Also had Matt McIntyre back down pit road. Moore and McIntyre had already made pit stops, so I don't know why they're coming back down pit road again, unless they were hit with speeding penalties and are having to serve pass-throughs. Breton continues to lead. A lot of these drivers bypassing him are the drivers on fresh tires that have already made pit stops. Alexander Rowe, 5th in points. Just saw the Dunkin' Donuts machine on pit lane. Battle's going to be for second place. Gunther trying to hold off Charles Sanford. As we're still waiting for Breton, Gunther, Sanford, McCrory, Jack Mitchell, who's now 5th. Dylan Pote just hit pit road. Daniel Bouchard as well. Here comes Breton and here comes Gunther on the same lap. So that will turn the race lead over to the 0-3 of Charles Sanford. I believe 15 drivers before Breton and Gunther dove to pit road were left to make their pit stop here. Dustin Bolin just now leaving pit road. Sanford getting put way up on the top side 3 wide. Look at all these fresh tires coming on by. Autumn Brooks, Dylan Young, all looking to get their laps back here the hard way. It'll be interesting to see once everybody does make their first pit stop of the afternoon, how many drivers are on the lead lap, how many drivers lost a lap with their pit stop. I mean, I would have to assume a lot of drivers that didn't qualify well may end up losing a lap. We saw Benjamin Snyder and Laura Chung lose laps before the pit stops even began as Charles Sanford pits. I saw Anthony McCurry was on pit road the lap prior. Carson Gum, who was the last car on the lead lap on pit road. I have no idea who this is going to turn the race lead over to now. What we will do is we'll move up and try and find the 88 of Connor Breton and see where everyone cycles around to him. There is the 88 car. Jessica Shelton behind him, Nick Gunther the next car. So right now it looks like there would be a lap machine between Breton and Gunther if indeed this is where the cycle to the lead takes place. And Breton's got a lot of traffic up ahead of him of drivers that would be on the tail end of the lead lap. That'll give an opportunity for Gunther to close in as Charles Sanford just got bypassed there. I don't know if that was to get the second lap back or if that would be for the eventual top position. I believe scoring right now is showing Daniel Voiles as the race leader, the pole sitter. There he is. He is yet to come to pit road. I believe we're still waiting on 5 drivers to pit. Voiles, Ormond, Bishop, LaPlante, and Fogler. And we saw some drivers come to pit road around lap 30. We see Voiles extending it to around lap 60. So different drivers on different agendas here. Some drivers might be looking for a 3-stop race. For Voiles, if he's gone 60 laps here before pitting, he might be looking at a 2-stopper. Let's find LaPlante in the 48. I believe Ormond just pit. I do not believe LaPlante is pit yet, as there he is. Yeah, he just now hits pit road, does LaPlante, and that will turn the race lead over to Caleb Fogler. Fogler, I believe, is the last driver that we are waiting on before everybody should cycle around. And currently, scoring is showing Matt Haas, the highest running of the drivers that have already pit. Remember, he was one of the drivers that went for the undercut strategy, utilized those fresh tires to gain track position, and I think he's going to cycle out to the lead once Fogler hits pit road. That might be something that a lot of drivers will have to take a look at there. The undercut strategy does pay dividends. Right now, Haas looks like he would cycle the lead. Summer Henson would be 2nd, James Qualls 3rd, Trey Wright 4th, and Connor Breton, who was leading when the pit stop cycle began, would actually cycle back to 5th, as here comes Fogler to pit road. So he'll give up the lead. And he will eventually give up the lead to, let's see if we can find him here. There is Matt Haas. Oh, we had him for a moment. We lost him. There he is. Haas to P1. Looking for his 2nd win in a row, his 4th win on the season. Got the checker flag last week, his first non-super speedway victory of season 8 at Hanford, and looking to double down. I'll tell you right now, who is happy to see Matt Haas out in front right now? All the one-time winners that are between 11th through 30th in points, because Matt Haas being out in front here, or at least running up inside of the top 5, came into this race 11th in the standings. He was actually tied for 10th technically, but according to average finish and everything, it puts him 11th. But if he moves into the top 10, guess what? Those 3 wins don't count towards a wild card spot. He's in on points, and that opens up the door for one-time winners to be able to get back into the conversation for a wild card spot. Right now, Matt Haas would have the number 1 wild card spot. Connor Breton has now moved into second. Remember, he was one of those drivers that pitted a little bit later, and now he's relying on those fresher tires here on this half of the long run to close up on Matt Haas. Nick Gunther right there with him, though I'm being told Gunther had to make an extra pit stop, and he's trying to get one of his 2 laps back the hard way here. Not sure what the unscheduled stop there, the extra pit stop, was for. But Gunther, who was looking like he was going to be in the hunt for this, now he's going to need a lot of things to go his way. And Breton is back in as well now. They're in the 88. Also just saw Jack Mitchell. So we've got some very unorthodox strategy going on here in terms of when drivers are making their pit stops. That will now move, I believe, Eric Monaco, the rookie, into the second position. Benjamin Miles behind him would be third. Summer Henson now in fourth, and James Qualls would be fifth. Trey Wright is sixth, Jessica Schulten seventh, followed by Alexander Rowe, Reggie Fogelman, and I believe with Breton pitting, Dylan Young has now moved up into the top 10. The weird thing is, though, a lot of these drivers seem to be coming down pit road on purpose. I don't know if this is necessarily unscheduled pit stops or not. Dylan Young on pit road there as well. We just documented he had moved into the top 10. I don't think these are unscheduled pit stops. I mean, I've been looking. I've not seen anybody been tagged for speeding. Nobody has gone up and brushed the wall from what I've seen. Everybody's done a great job of keeping it off of the wall, off the safer barrier, all the way around this racetrack. Everybody that's come down pit road has come back out of the racetrack, so it can't be mechanical failures. So I don't know. Maybe we're making a pit stop to gain track position and then trying to get ourselves into a window. I don't know. Let's drop back here. Good battling inside of the top 5. Summer Henson, James Qualls, Trey Wright, Jessica Schulten, all involved in this. Alexander Rowe as well in the 46. This is 4th back to 8th under contest right now, with a couple of lap machines intermingled there, with Jack Mitchell trailing this pack. Jesse Turner, also one of the lap cars, making his way by, trying to work his way forward to get one of his laps back. Right now we've got 25 drivers on the lead lap. All 42 cars that started this race are still running. But if you're looking at some drivers that needed some good runs here this afternoon and aren't getting them currently, Nick Gunther currently 1 lap down in the 28th position. Jack Mitchell 31st. Those are a couple of drivers that came into this race top 10 in the standings. Connor Breton, who needed a good run to stay in the top 30. We saw him make that pit stop. Now, we'll have to wait and see how things cycle around. This does not mean that he is out of it. There may have been a strategy call that brought him to pit lane, but right now he is currently 2 laps down in 32nd. And while we talked about Matt Haas maybe moving up into the top 10 in points as a multi-time winner, Destin Bolin is right now running the last car in 42nd, 6 laps down, and he only came into this race 2 points above the 10th in the standings cut line. If he drops out of the top 10, then he falls into one of those wild card spots. So while the good news for some drivers, some of those one-time winners, is a multi-time winner would maybe move into the top 10, the bad news is he'd get replaced with another multi-time winner that would fall out of the top 10. As we've had an exchange for the lead right there, you saw it happen. Eric Monaco making his way around Matt Haas. He'll go to the point, and his teammate Jesse Turner now will look to the inside to get one of his 2 laps back here. Eric Monaco coming into this race 15th in points, 22 points out of the top 10. Opportunity here for him potentially to win his way into the postseason, become the 3rd full-time rookie to go to victory lane. Eric Monaco did it at North Wilkesboro. Summer Henson did it at Homestead. Just saw Trey Wright hit pit road. That might be his final pit stop of the day, as he was up in the 7th position. Dylan Young, Cody Lamas there on pit lane as well. Carson Gum right now, the first car 1 lap down, looking to get up there to Monaco, get his lap back the hard way, get back in the tail end of the lead lap. We haven't really seen much out of Carson Gum here tonight, though granted he did not qualify well, so he's at least had a net gain, currently in the 21st position. He's made it halfway up through the field. He and Nick Gunther, the only 2 former winners here from Bristol Dirt that were in on the grid here tonight. We saw Gunther fighting up there for the race lead, as now Monaco pits, so that will turn the lead back over to Matt Haas. But we really haven't seen much out of Carson Gum. And I mentioned about nobody with mechanical failures. I saw Dylan Young come to pit road just moments ago, and I thought that might have been a little bit earlier than his last pit stop. Well, there was a reason for it. This time, unscheduled pit stop for him. He's out of the race. Mechanical failure for Dylan Young. He'll be our first retiree of the night. Just saw Matt Haas hit pit road. That should turn the race lead over, I believe, to the 25 of Benjamin Miles. First time the Napa Chevrolet has been out front here tonight. Benjamin Miles coming into this race 24th in the standings. He is 2 points behind Daniel Voiles. So a win for him could potentially push him up into a wild card spot. You see Michael Norman on pit road, Autumn Brooks. Those are a couple of drivers that were on the lead lap before making these pit stops here. And I'm being told the speeding police have nabbed somebody. Cole Deaver has been issued a black flag. He was already 4 laps down in the 37th position as Benjamin Miles hits pit lane. So that's a tough break there for Cole Deaver, as he'll have to come down, serve a pass through. Jessica Shelton going to cycle into 2nd with Miles hitting pit road, and now she's coming to pit lane. Alexander Rowe has actually inherited the race lead. Alexander, the 2nd highest driver in the point standings without a victory, 5th in overall points. Looking to get back to victory lane for the first time since, I believe, season 3, when he went to victory lane with Northeast Motorsports in the number 24 Red Bull Chevrolet at Pikes Peak. He ran full-time back in season 5, driving the 78 for Auto Junction Racing, along with Diego Yepes and Ryan Butcher, who, by the way, Yepes and Ryan Butcher, both former winners here at this racetrack. As a matter of fact, Ryan Butcher won this event the past 2 seasons, back-to-back years. But Alexander Rowe did not go to victory lane in season 5. So it's been a long winless streak for Alexander Rowe. Signed full-time this season to Lake Effect Autosport. Has been very consistent for that organization. Been looking most of the season like he's going to be battling in the playoffs, getting in through points, but he'd love to get in through a checkered flag. And the question is, when does he make his pit stop here as we approach 50 laps to go? Shelton, who's already pitted, makes her way by. Nathan Norman looking to do the same. Eric Monaco looks like he's back on pit road. Right now, 11 drivers on the lead lap. That'll change as the 46 now makes the dive to pit road. Lead change now should go to the 27 of Joshua Osborne. Joshua coming into this race 20th in the standings. Remember, it was only about a month ago he was hovering right around that 10th in the standings cut line, but he has hit a streak of really bad luck and looking here tonight to bounce back from it. You know, I actually just realized, I believe that the last 3 winners here at Bristol Dirt have all been Toyotas. So I don't know about that streak extending or not. We'll have to find out. But Osborne right now leading. We're waiting for him. Kyle Matthews right now up in 2nd place. Zachary Fitzwater, Daniel Voiles, Ryan Brommer, the points leader. That's your top 5 with Caleb Fogler and I believe that is the rest, and Carson Gum. Those are the drivers that we are waiting on. Here comes Osborne to pit road. Now, interesting point of note, as Fitzwater is also pitting, I think a driver we need to keep an eye on here is Nick Gunther. We've seen drivers be able to go 60-some-odd laps on fuel, and we're about to hit 50 laps to go. Okay, well, never mind. Gunther's coming down pit road. I was going to say, Gunther has already made 2 pit stops. So he might be able to go a little bit further, but he'll now pit. He was 1 lap down, first car 1 lap down. Actually, had just gotten back in the tail end of the lead lap right there when we saw the race leader Joshua Osborne hit pit road. I believe that Kyle Matthews is now the new race leader. Indeed, he is. I don't know how many laps Kyle Matthews has led this season, but it can't be much. We've talked about how struggling season it's been for the former champion, 38th in points. Let me look and check on that, because I actually am very curious to see how many laps Kyle Matthews has actually led here this season prior to tonight. He's led 2 laps. So he is going to at least double the amount of laps he's led this season here. Get himself a bonus point for a lap led. We are awaiting him, Daniel Voiles, Caleb Fogler to make their 2nd pit stops of this race. And more than likely going to be their final pit stops as well. We'll have to see who the lead then cycles around to. If scoring is to be believed right now, it may be either Jack Mitchell or Benjamin Miles. Remember, Fogler did run long on the first cycle of pit stops, so it may be a bit before we see him on pit road again. Right now holding down the 2nd spot. Pole sitter Daniel Voiles right now in 3rd place. He is all the way back here. Where in the world is he? There he is. Actually, no, he just made a pit stop, and Kyle Matthews is pitting from the lead. So Voiles is already pitted. Matthews is going to pit. Now we got to find the 28 of Fogler again and see how long does he run before he makes the dive for what is probably going to be his final pit stop of the day. And then it will be the question for Jack Mitchell, Benjamin Miles, Connor Breton, Jesse Turner, Summer Henson, some of those that will cycle up to the top 5 once this pit stop is done. Can they make it the rest of the way? It'll all depend on when their pit stop was. Less than 50 to go here for Caleb Fogler, a former champion from Season 5. Caleb 27th in points. He would need a win and a lot of points here to be able to get ahead of drivers like R.J. Bishop, Nathan Ormond, and Daniel Voiles to get up into a wild card spot. Not mathematically impossible. Right now, with the 28 where he's at, we've only got 12 drivers on the lead lap. The last of those, Nathan Ormond, who just got his lap back the hard way right there. Trey Wright a little further back. You see the 82. He is now the first car 1 lap down, trying to get up there and get past Fogler, which now Fogler will come to pit road at around 41 laps remaining. So I believe that the race lead will now cycle around to the 25 of Benjamin Miles. And the question is, with when Ben made his final pit stop, is he good to make it on fuel? Right there was the exchange for the race lead. If Miles has the fuel to get the rest of the way, then he might be the one currently in line to take this victory, as his teammate Austin LaPlante pits right in front of him. Northeast Motorsports will be 1-2 now, as Connor Breton will cycle into second place. Battle is on for that position as Shelton looks low. Matt Haas, you can see him just back there behind Destin Bolin. He's in the 4th spot. Actually, correction, make that 5th. Alexander Rowe just bypassed him for 4th place. So Haas will drop to 5th. James Qualls is now 6th, Henson in 7th, Reggie Fogelman, Nathan Ormond, and Trey Wright. That is your top 10. The question is, for those 10 drivers, are they able to make it the rest of the way? Can they maintain their track position here with less than 40 laps to go? Let's talk Benjamin Miles. Coming into this race currently in the 24th position. A win, I think, would put him up in a wild card spot, and we talked about down this home stretch, tracks like Watkins Glen, Hanford, Bristol Dirt, even as late as next week at Auto Club. Opportunities for drivers to snipe a last-minute playoff spot. Benjamin Miles, I guarantee you, if I were to give you a list of 10 drivers at the midway portion of the season, the All-Star break, that I didn't think had a ghost of a shot of making it into the playoffs with how bad the first 13 races were for them, Miles would have been in that category, I think. He had a cold. He started out strong, but then he hit a cold streak about 6-7 races in, and he was fighting to stay in the top 30 in points. He's been able to put some races together here. They've been somewhat inconsistent down this second half, but he's got himself at least up in the vicinity where a win would put him into a wild card position. And if he can close this deal out, we may be at the checkered flag 1 week from now saying that Benjamin Miles is going championship racing. But it's all a matter of the fuel in the tank. I've also been keeping an eye on the interval between him and Alexander Rowe. Rowe has been able to clear a good chunk of traffic back there, and he has only about 2.5 seconds between himself and Miles, who is boxed in right now behind Eric Sadler and Caleb Fogler. There is Alexander Rowe. He's going to encounter Zachary Fitzwater, but look at that amount of traffic that he had to deal with back there. Pretty much nil. Now you're probably wondering, if these drivers all do have to pit, who would then cycle out to the front? And the easy answer for that would be, I don't know. You look back further behind those drivers I mentioned inside the top 10. Michael Norman has now worked his way up to 9th. Charles Sanford up to 10th. Anthony McCurry, Autumn Brooks are back there as well. I mean, who's got the fuel to get the rest of the way? It's a big question. I'm not sure who it's going to be. It could very well be Miles, but if it's not him, then who is going to be that driver that gambles? I mean, Caleb Fogler just ahead of the race leaders there in the 28 car. Remember, we saw him run long on both of these green flag runs so far. However, he is 3 laps down in the 33rd position. Summer Henson on pit road. That's one of our drivers from the top 10, 6th place. So she couldn't make it on fuel. Qualls from 5th, also on pit lane. Oh man. That may mean that these drivers here, these race leaders, might not be able to make it the rest of the way. I think Autumn Brooks, did she pit, or is she just on the tail end of the lead lap there in the 62 car? I think she must have had to have pit. We'll wait for scoring to update. Nope, scoring is saying she has not pit yet. Jack Mitchell was just on pit road. Oh, Charles Sanford just blew up on the front straightaway, and if that car comes to a stop, they may have to throw the yellow. He's not going to be able to make it back. He's down against the wall. I'm looking around this racetrack to see if the yellow lights come on, and yes, the caution will fly. Mechanical failure for Sanford on the back straightaway. He couldn't get the car to the pit road. Came to a stop on the racing surface, and this changes up everything. Kind of shades of Hanford here, as I believe we're going to have only 10 drivers on the lead lap here. Wow. Well, no need to go back and take a look at a replay. We saw it pretty much happen live there with Sanford having his issues. Pit road's open. I think all 10 of your lead lap cars are going to come down pit road. I think a lot of drivers are going to stay out, and that means that we're going to have deja vu from a week ago where your lead lap cars, or your drivers that are at least battling for the race win, they're going to be at the tail end of the field having to work their way through traffic. Last week it was 5 drivers that had to do that. This week it's going to be 10 drivers. And who are those lucky 10? Miles, Rowe, Haas, Fogelman, Osborne, Wright, Norman, McCrory, Brooks, and Gum. And take as long as you want on this pit stop here. If you're these lead lap drivers, get that thing full of fuel. Alexander Rowe's actually going to bypass Benjamin Miles on pit lane. He may end up restarting as the leader. And I think a lot of these other drivers up here, they're all going to just stay out, right? Some of them will cycle onto the tail end of the lead lap. Oh, nope, we got a number of them actually coming to pit road. A few drivers will gamble and stay out, but a lot of your lap down cars are actually pitting. Destin Bolin, Connor Breton, Kyler Sustre, I believe Summer Henson all stay out. I believe all of those drivers, let's see, Breton was 2 laps down. Henson was 2 laps down. I believe she had actually just made a pit stop. Destin Bolin is 7 laps down. And Kyler Sustre was, if I can find him, he was 3 laps down. So second mechanical failure here tonight. Dylan Young had the first, but he was able to get to pit road and get to the garage area. Charles Sanford, the most recent, and that I believe now is going to put Charles Sanford in a must-win situation next week at Auto Club if he's going to get into the playoffs through a wild card position. So there's the race leader, I believe. Oh no, Matt Haas actually won the battle off of pit road. So it'll be Haas, Rowe. You got the lap car of Mitchell, then there in the middle with Benjamin Miles in third. Now we're going to have the lap cars pulled to the inside. Eric Sadler is on the tail end of the lead lap, now in 11th place. So he will be boxing in Matt Haas and hoping for another yellow to be able to catch up to the tail end of the field. Scoring is also showing Carson Gum 1 lap down, and I believe the reason for that is he was on pit road too long. The pace car went by him, and he fell a lap down under caution. So we'll have 10 drivers, including Eric Sadler, on the lead lap. 9 of them will line up on this outside line with a chance of winning this race. And green flag will come out with 22 laps to go here at Bristol. Sadler is going to pull away, so now he's hoping for a yellow flag. 3 wide further back, leaning on each other, Trey Wright and Benjamin Miles. That's for 3rd place. Matt Haas, last week, was able to maneuver through traffic to pick up his 3rd win on the season, trying to do the same here 1 week later at Bristol. I think it's going to come down to who's able to jump to the inside line of the lead lap cars, and looking back there, maybe Michael Norman might be that driver. Matt Haas trapped up there on the outside line. All these drivers to his inside, 1 or more laps down, trying to get some of those laps back. Alexander Rowe gets to the inside of Matt Haas, who was wide there off of 4. Here's the battle for the race lead. And Alexander Rowe will take the spot. as Matt Haas almost got put 3 wide again there by Summer Henson. Alexander Rowe to the point. Haas drops back to second place. Third, I believe, is Trey Wright in the 82. Michael Norman right now in fourth, and Autumn Brooks ripping the top side has worked her way to fifth. And Alexander Rowe is pulling away. Second place, right to the inside of Haas. He'll take the spot. Remember, Trey Wright, he's just out here looking for wins. He's not going to be able to battle for a championship. This is only his second start in the season. He started on the outside of the front row, looking for that checkered flag. He's going to have a couple cars he'll have to pass here before he gets up there to the race leader. I just saw the pole sitter Daniel Voiles on pit lane. Anybody that pits from here on out has to be unscheduled. They all should be able to make it on fuel. It was a 22-lap shootout. As Trey Wright, look at that run. He's going to get on the top side, gets to the outside of Nick Gunther. As Alexander Rowe trying to put more traffic between him and the 82 car. Trying to run the bottom here. Kind of getting held up by Connor Breton. Breton right now is 1 lap down in the 16th position. So Breton at least, remember when we last checked in on him, he was back outside of the top 30. So it's a decent run right now if you're driver 88 trying to stay in the top 30 in points. Michael Norman is now moved by for third place. Matt Haas is actually drifting back. Joshua Osborne is now up to fourth with Autumn Brooks in fifth. Haas has dropped back to sixth. Trey right now in the middle, looking to the inside of Nick Gunther. 3 cars between him and the race leader Alexander Rowe. And these laps are ticking away very quickly. Closing in on 10 to go. And look at the traffic that Trey Wright has got in front of him now. James Qualls, Jack Mitchell, Nick Gunther, 3 wide, creating a barricade in front of Trey Wright. Whereas for Alexander Rowe, he's going to work his way to the inside of Eric Sadler, as actually Matt Haas now making a pit stop in the closing stages here. So the 3-time winner will not go back-to-back here tonight. Rowe trying to put Eric Sadler back a lap down. Sadler right now, last car on the lead lap in 9th. 10 laps remaining here at Bristol. No lead lap car in the rearview mirror here if you're Alexander Rowe. Trey Wright still held up. As a matter of fact, Michael Norman, if he's able to maneuver his way here to the inside of Summer Henson, he may have a shot for second place. Alexander Rowe, I think he's very content right now to ride behind the 12. He knows Eric Sadler's going to put up a fight to stay on the lead lap. Sadler trying to work his way back into the top 10 in the standings, 17 points out, a former winner this season. Alexander Rowe, I don't think, wants to force the issue here. He's got about 7-8 lap cars between himself and Trey Wright. And he's also got time on his side, as this time by 7 laps to go. Alexander Rowe coming into this race. 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s in the first 24 races. We've documented his consistency to have him inside the top 10 in points for a majority of this regular season. But he is now going to be 5 laps away from closing out the deal and locking himself up a spot in the playoffs. If he wins tonight, he's going playoff racing, regardless of what happens next week at Auto Club. It's going to be a big, big win for the Dunkin' Donuts Dark Horse Mustang driver out of Lake Effect Autosport. It will end a long winless streak, and it will guarantee that at least one Lake Effect Autosport driver will be battling for the championship this season. As going into next week, I believe both Eric Monaco and Jesse Turner will probably be in must-win situations in order to be able to advance. Trey Wright has been able to bypass some of that traffic, but there's still 4 cars between him and Alexander Rowe. He'd have to bypass them here in these next 3 laps. Alexander Rowe going to get held up a little bit here, though, by Benjamin Miles. Well, maybe not. Got to his inside very quickly and puts the Napa Chevrolet in his rearview mirror. And this time by, he'll see 2 laps to go. About 1.8 seconds back to Trey Wright. Pretty clean racetrack ahead of him. And Alexander Rowe finally sees the flag he's been looking for. White flag displayed here at Bristol Dirt. Half a mile away from his first victory of Season 8. No challenge from Trey Wright. He's too far back. Through 3 and 4. Alexander Rowe is going to go back to victory lane. More importantly, he'll be battling for a championship as he will win his way into the playoffs here tonight at Bristol Dirt. Trey Wright will bring it home in second after starting second. Michael Norman, just a couple weeks removed from his first win of the season, is going to complete the podium, followed by Osborne, Brooks, McCrory, and Fogelman. 7 drivers will finish this race on the lead lap. I have to wonder if this finish will lock Fogelman into the playoffs. Same for Michael Norman, as Michael was outside of the top 10 in the standings, 14th in points. Fogelman was 16th. The reason why I wonder if this locks them in is if both of them don't get into the top 10 in points, they're going to be up at least between 11th through 15th with 1 win each. And I don't see a scenario here with Rowe being in the top 10 in points winning this race. I don't see a scenario where you can have a victory and be up in the top 15 in the standings and not at least be in the 4th, 5th, 6th wild card spot at the conclusion of next week, regardless of if we have a new race winner next week or not. Standings are official. You're going to see a couple of drivers here, including Alexander Rowe, is retired. That's only because they came to pit road, pulled into their pit stall before the race standings were actually official. But Alexander Rowe is going to get the victory. Trey Wright started second, finished second. Great performance for him here tonight. We talked about that he formerly had a dirt track win here in Duracell Cup Series competition. He showed that prowess this evening in that all-star car. And Michael Norman brings it home on the podium. Joshua Osborne, good run for him there in 4th. Osborne came into this race 20th in the standings. Where is this going to put him points-wise heading into next week? We'll have to wait and see. Autumn Brooks, great run for her here tonight as she finishes in 5th in her, her 16th start in the season? Yep. Her teammate Anthony McCurry right there behind her as well. Good run there for Anthony as his finishes have gotten better as of late. I think it's too late for him to win next week and get a playoff spot, but this will move him back into the top 30 in the standings regardless. And as I said, for Reggie Fogelman, he came into this race in, I believe it was the 4th wildcard spot as things, no, I'm sorry, the 5th wildcard spot as things are currently scored. I think Destin Bolin may drop out of the top 10. Matt Haas, I don't know if he'll move into the top 10 or if he'll remain out of the top 10. Connor Breton, where did he finish? He finished in, he finished in 37th place. I think he's dropping out of the top 30, is Breton. By how much, I don't know. So I would say maybe 2 multi-time winners would be in the top 30. But outside of the top 10. So for Fogelman, let's check here and see. Was there anybody he had to bypass that also had a win? Eric Sadler. Eric finished in 8th. Sadler may move back into the top 10. Norman might move into the top 10. I honestly, I don't see it. We'll obviously have confirmation for you all next week, but I don't see a scenario now where Sadler, Norman, and Fogelman don't make the playoffs on their victories. I don't see them missing out on a wild card spot, and that is, again, including the scenario that Breton somehow works his way back into the top 30 in the points next week, and we end up having another first-time winner next week. I don't see that scenario, but we'll have that confirmation for you next week regardless. Benjamin Miles, we saw him have to make a pit stop late, had a strong car here tonight, leading 19 laps. He'll finish a solid top 10 in 9th. And Carson Gum worked his way from the back of the pack up to finish in 10th position. Carson was only 40 points out of the points lead coming into tonight, so still maybe calculations have him in the hunt to maybe get that regular season championship next week. The problem for him, though, is Ryan Brommer, the points leader, also mounted to come back this evening to finish in 13th. So, I don't know. James Qualls, not that far behind him in 16th place. So that's what, 3 positions. Did either of those drivers lead any laps? Yeah, Qualls led 25 laps. Brommer led none. So Qualls would get an extra bonus point. It was 23 points between those two. Make it 22 with Qualls leading the lap, and then extend it by, 3? So 25 points will be the difference between Brommer and Qualls for the regular season championship going into next week. And as I said, Carson Gum may have mathematically gotten himself in there as well. I think, though, with the amount of points that the difference will be, he would probably have to win, and Qualls and Brommer, well, Qualls would have to finish out of the top 20. Brommer would have to finish back 40th, 41st, 42nd, something like that. Kyle Matthews, good run for him tonight, as he'll finish in 11th. Zachary Fitzwater in 12th. Fitzy's going to move back up in the top 20 in points. A win next week could put him into a wild card conversation. Monaco, another driver with a good run that was 15th in points. He'll get 14th, and Daniel Bouchard going to complete your top 15. He was 17th in points, was Daniel. Came off a good run last week at Hanford, so don't count him out. There's a lot of drivers here that could still last-minute snipe a wild card spot heading into next week. But on the flip side, drivers that are going to be in must-win situations going into next week, you could throw Matt McIntyre into that conversation. Quentin Moore, that's a big one because he was 10th in points coming into this race, and he'll finish 36th. This will drop him out of the top 10. Breton, as I mentioned, I don't see how 37th doesn't drop him out of the top 30 in the standings. I mean, heck, one of the drivers that was behind him in points coming tonight was Casey Hoyt. The difference between those two was 6 points, and Hoyt finished 22nd. That's a 15 position difference. So I think that Breton has dropped out of the top 30. Anthony McCurry was behind him too, and he brought it home in the top 10. So Breton's going to have to win next week, or at least have a solid finish to get back in the top 30 for his 2 wins to count towards a wild card spot. We've seen it before. We've seen multi-time winners not make the playoffs because they can't stay in the top 30 in the standings. Levi McIntyre, I think this may take him out of the hunt for the regular season championship, finishing in 39th. I think mathematically he's still going to point his way into the playoffs, but this 99 team's got to find something here before the playoffs begin. They have been on a downward spiral. Their finishes have not been good down this home stretch. Destin Bolin going to finish in 40th. He was 9th in points. I think this drops him out of the top 10, which now puts him in the number 1 wildcard spot with his 4 victories, but we'll have to see if he can work his way back up into the top 10 after next week's regular season finale. And then Charles Sanford, Dylan Young, the only 2 drivers that did not reach the conclusion. Mechanical failures. Charles Sanford's mechanical failure bringing out our only caution of the day. Dylan Young, early retirement as well, finishing in 42nd. So we'll have for you all the scenarios of who can still point their way in, who has to win their way in, who still has a chance to be able to be in the playoffs after next week's race at Auto Club Speedway. They said tonight was going to be a crazy one. It certainly was that. Bristol Dirt continues to chaotically, in some ways, play its part into who's going to be battling for a championship here in Season 8 and who is not. We know Alexander Rowe is going to, though, as he picks up his first victory on the season. Congratulations to him. Thank you all for tuning into this weekend's race here from Bristol Dirt. Next week, Lights drivers rejoin the Cup drivers, and we set the 10 drivers for the Lights, the 16 drivers for the Cup that will battle in their respective playoffs. Do not want to miss that. We'll have pole day qualifying for the Lights drivers Friday at 3. Then on Saturday at 1, it's Cup qualifying. Lights drivers will have their race that Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Sunday at 1, it is the Cup Series from Auto Club. Cannot wait to see you guys next week for our doubleheader regular season finale. Congratulations once again to Alexander on his victory here tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed this race. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We showed you your full fantasy results. These are the point standings going into next week. Formulate your own scenarios. We'll talk about it next week during the pre-race as we prepare to find out who is going to battle for the championship here in Season 8. But until next week, I've been Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA TV, offline racing at its best.
The following has been a presentation of NNSCRA TV for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the consent of the NNSCRA is prohibited. NNSCRA would like to thank all of our loyal fans, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.